Alrighty. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How you all doing? Great to see you. Thanks for joining me every day, each and every day on these interwebs. We're live on Rockfin, on Callin, on YouTube, and on Twitter. We're live on Twitter. You can watch the show on Twitter. That's pretty cool. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Where'd my shoot? Huh. That's interesting. Dang it. Well, I had had some things set up, and now it's all okay. I guess this is right. Hello. Paul Beckwith says the Southern Hemisphere braces for record-breaking heat. It's a headline out of the Scientific American. And we've been seeing record-breaking heat going on, especially in Brazil, which is, I don't know. Heat is often life-threatening, and people do succumb due to the heat. But, you know, it's been hard to associate heat deaths with climate change. In the past, there are a lot of factors involved, and so obviously scientists are very hesitant to link, heat with mortality. But but we may be entering a time, a phase in Earth's history where we can start seeing some really intense heat. I mean, we can say that there was a there was a Taylor Swift fan, who died because of the heat the other day. And I don't want there to be more, but it's likely that that will be a thing that happens. There will be more heat deaths due to extreme heat. I think humans have really gotten better at mitigating the effect of like extreme weather that it has on, humans have gotten quite good at protecting themselves from these extreme weather events. But there'll be a time when the weather events will breach the dam, if you will. Steve Austin says that at the time of writing this, CO2 is at 422 parts per million. That is 5 parts per million more than the same day last year. That rise in 12 months is probably the largest ever recorded, more than double the last decade's annual average. More than double. It finishes by saying the Paris Agreement was greenwashing. Sure. Peter Dyan says 80% of the calories that people consume around the globe are annual grains. Once temperatures hit 37°C, plants can't transpire and growth stops. Red areas are 40% negative yield. These red areas here. You can only feed 2 billion people at this level. What happens to the other 6 to 8 billions? And this is the thing that they don't really want to let you know about when they talk about climate change. Climate change is kind of bad. Let's describe climate change for the kindergartners on TV. So it's just kind of like simple and abstract. They're not going to connect the dots for you. You have to do that yourself. There is a truce in Gaza, so that's good news. 4-day truce begins in Gaza, setting the stage to swap dozens of hostages for Palestinian prisoners. We'll see if it lasts the whole 4 days. I hope so. The halt in fighting promised some relief for Gaza's 2.3 million people who have endured weeks of Israeli bombardment. Jimmy Dore, we'll come back to this video. It's a very short video. The sound is quite low, so it's kind of hard to hear it. The real reason Biden wouldn't call for a ceasefire is sickening. So we'll play that, and you'll find out why. This from Michael Tracy. In 1988, it was estimated that each member of the Israeli military received subsidization from the U.S. at about $9,750 per year. So each member was receiving almost $10,000 in 1988. So that $10,000 was worth a lot more. In 1988, the annual amount of Social Security payments dispensed to the most destitute, elderly, and disabled Americans was $4,248. What is going on? What is going on? Why does this ally, this country that is not the United States, why are they being so heavily funded? Why are they being so helped in such a way? Why are people in the United States, citizens in the United States, getting getting short shrift when they're receiving why is this happening? It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's not even reasonable. Why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening. It should absolutely not be happening at all. And it should end. It should end immediately. People should be in the streets. People should be in front of the White House. People should be screaming as loud as they can. Not only just stop the bombing in Gaza, which is what people have been saying. No, we got to stop support for Israel. Like the people, not the government and the military. I know they have their own ideas, but the people are going to have their ideas too. Which is stop it. Enough already. Let it go. It's over. It's done. We don't need to do this. And whatever Israel thinks they have on us, or whatever it is that they're threatening us with, that gives them so much control over us, it needs to stop. It needs to end. So I don't know. I don't know really what's going on, the absolute truth of it. I think a lot of people are confused about what's happening. Is it only that this is an asset in the Middle East that we need to, is this just an aircraft carrier, as RFK Jr. said, that we need to pump so much money into because it gives us some kind of, national security or an empirical foothold in the area? Sure. But it needs to stop. It just needs to end. It needs to be over. It needs to be done. Are people going to get out in the streets and get loud enough and mad enough to stop it? I don't know. But it's absolutely it's criminal is what it is on many levels. It's criminal. This is good. We'll all play this video. Pro-Palestinian protester shuts down reporter's question about October 7th with a perfect answer. Poppy Davis sent this to me. Bears in Far East Russia struggle to hibernate amid abnormally high temperatures. This is an interesting post, and we'll try and look at this. I don't know how much time we're going to have to look at all of this. Smoke from fires kept Earth cool. Smoke from our fires kept Earth cool potentially for thousands of years. And lastly, Doomer Girl News posts this. And, is it surprising? Oh, no, whoa. When they tell people talking about this that they're, Looney Tunes or not. They try to shut people down from exposing this kind of stuff. The chief of staff for the Department of Defense Education Activity Schools in the U.S. was arrested last week during a 2-day human trafficking operation in Coweta County, Georgia, in charge of children since 1982. This is a senior Pentagon official. Maybe that's where all the trillions of dollars are going. But, good on Doomer Girl News for posting this. And this kind of stuff needs to be exposed, and it also needs to stop. It really needs to stop. We need to hold not just the people accountable, but the agencies and the organizations that are allowing this to happen accountable. Because it's horrific, and it should not be happening, right? And if you're like, oh my God, that's just too weird. Why are you saying that? What are you queuing? You should just be quiet and let the people who are concerned about this and don't want it to happen anymore continue the conversation. Okay. um, because it is happening, and it should not be happening. All right. All right. Let's look at this from Paul Beckwith, or from, I guess, Apple News. No, I don't want to open Apple News. No, I just want to read the story, yo. They're not going to let me do this. Okay. Hold on. I didn't realize it was an Apple News link. No. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. No, I don't care. All right. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this. Let me see if I can find it another way. How about this? Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Just take me to the actual article. Thank you, people. It's not that hard. Southern Hemisphere braces for record-breaking heat. Like the Northern Hemisphere before it, the Southern Hemisphere is set to be enveloped by sweltering heat during its upcoming summer. Southern Hemisphere is facing a summer of extremes, say scientists, as climate change amplifies the effects of natural climate variability. This comes in the wake of a summer in the Northern Hemisphere that saw extreme heat waves across Europe, China, and North America, setting new records for both daytime and nighttime temperatures in some areas. Andrew King, a climate scientist at the University of Melbourne, Australia, says that there is a high chance of seeing record high temperatures, at least on a global average, and seeing some particularly extreme events in some parts of the world. And they go through the usual litany of El Nino, et cetera, et cetera. In Eastern Africa, the combination of El Nino and positive Indian Ocean dipole is associated with wetter conditions than normal and an increased likelihood of extreme rainfall events and flooding. Above average rainfall is forecast for much of southern Africa in mid to late spring. That's October to December, followed by warm and dry conditions in the summer. In South America, El Nino has a more checkered effect. It brings wet conditions and flooding to some parts of the continent, particularly Peru and Ecuador, but hot, dry conditions to the Amazon and northeastern regions. Climate scientist Danielle Verdon-Kidd at the University of Newcastle, Australia, says that heat waves, one of the most deadly weather events, are a major concern for the summer of 2023. We know that the conditions that we've got now make it more likely those sorts of systems will develop over the summer. Summer of 2023 in the Northern Hemisphere saw unprecedented high temperatures in China, parts of Europe and North Africa, the worst bushfire season on record in Canada, and severe marine heat waves in the Mediterranean. The large land masses in the Northern Hemisphere create areas of circulating warm, dry air known as heat domes, which block low-pressure systems that would otherwise bring cooler, wetter conditions. In the Southern Hemisphere, heat domes are less of a concern. We also have a big landmass in Australia. But the Southern Hemisphere has a much higher ocean-to-land ratio, so our systems are different. The oceans are hotter. Also another reason. So there's that. Um, you guys, hear the explanations over and over and over again. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this, take a look at this real quick. Let's see. This is from The Guardian. Are they going to be funny with the links? CO2 readings from Mauna Loa show failure to combat climate change. You don't say. Just above this column on the weather page of the Guardian's print edition is the daily atmospheric carbon dioxide readings from Mauna Loa and Hawaii. The acid test of how the world is succeeding in combating climate change. A week before the 28th annual meeting of the United Nations Framework Climate Change Convention opens in oil-rich Dubai, it makes depressing reading. At the time of this writing, it is 422 parts per million. This is 5 parts per million more than the same day last year. That rise in 12 months is probably the largest ever recorded. To give some perspective, exactly a decade ago, the concentration was 395 parts from the scientific community worried about the effect on the weather. If we were to pass the 400 mark, now we know the result is catastrophic heat waves, storms, droughts, floods, rapidly increasing and unstoppable sea level rise. The figures underline the fact that after 27 annual meetings of the convention, all the efforts of nearly 200 member states to tackle the menace of climate change have been a failure so far. The situation continues to get worse ever more rapidly. And there's no sign of carbon dioxide levels going down, let alone reaching the quote-unquote safe level of 350 parts per million. Yeah. They're having no effect on what's going on. Why? Because, we read yesterday that the fossil fuel companies are all up in these meetings because they've been co-opted, basically. And they don't really want to deal with the reality that we're going to have to change everything in order to actually stop this. The people in charge of how things work, or how humans organize themselves on the planet, don't want the system that we've created to stop, because it brings a lot of wealth, and makes technology possible, and it makes all these, makes the world in which we live today a reality. But that reality is also the thing that is causing the thing that's destroying the planet. So what do you do with that? You got to end one to fix the other, or to stop exacerbating the other. And nobody's really willing to do that. And it's just easier to think that maybe it's all rather unreal, in order to continue, thinking that everything's going to go on as it has before, which is another thing that people have a hard time with, because people are doing well, and people are enjoying their, how humans are organizing themselves on the planet. People are enjoying the fruits of their labors. They're enjoying all the, fun times and good times and stuff, and they don't want to stop. They'd rather not, which is actually understandable. But let's look at this. But there are consequences. And one of the consequences is going to be the effect that it has on whether or not we're going to grow enough food for all the folks on the planet. 80% of the calories that people consume around the globe are annual grains. Once temperatures hit 37C, plants can't transpire and growth stops. Red areas are 40% negative yield. Okay, so I read this. Looking at current temperature trends, in my opinion, the globe will hit these conditions long before these 2099 projections. Well, yeah. Mitigation to limit warming is urgent. Adaptation for crops is also, I guess this is what I was looking for. Well, this actually makes it a little more dire. The headline: Global climate change impact on crops expected within 10 years. NASA study finds. Within 10 years, if not already happening. Climate change may affect the production of maize and wheat as early as 2030 under a high greenhouse gas emissions scenario. Well, there you go. We don't have 80 years. We don't have 50 years. And 10 years seems like an awful small window to affect something that has the momentum, right? Climate change has the momentum of like 100 years behind it. So how do you turn around the momentum that's taken 100 years to, I know, we don't need to get specific about how many years, but let's just say 100 years of momentum is hard to stop in 10 years. Well, they said 2030, so that's actually not even 10 years. So there's that. So let's look at this from Jimmy Dore. Why? The real reason. I wouldn't say this is the only reason, but this is one of the reasons. This is a very short clip, and it's kind of low. I can't.
To Gaza and the opportunity to further illuminate the devastation there and turn public opinion against Israel. That's why.
Hold on. I don't think you're going to be able to hear this. I'm going to have to do something else here. This is from Jimmy Dore's site. I don't know if they realized that the sound was so low on that. Give me 1 second. The sound is so low it's barely audible. But I have a way to enhance it a little bit. So I'm going to see if we can play it. Let's see. There we go. See if this will work. Yeah.
This is why they wouldn't do a ceasefire. You want to know the real reason? Because it would allow journalists broader access to Gaza and the opportunity to further illuminate the devastation there and turn public opinion against Israel. That's why they didn't want to do a pause in the slaughter of Palestinians, because journalists would be able to go there and report what was actually happening. But they buried that in the article. This is like paragraph 20. This should be the lead, which is why I led with this. And this is the lead. This is why they wouldn't do a ceasefire in a
whatever. It's really hard to hear. Sorry. Yeah, I can't really. I don't know. Wasn't really a way to work around that. But basically, he's just saying they didn't want to pause because they were going to allow journalists into Gaza, and then everybody would see how bad it is. Like they don't already see how bad it is already, and they were afraid it was going to turn public opinion against Israel. Like public opinion isn't against Israel already. It's totally like, whatever. Look, nobody supports this, okay? The only people that support this are people that are running the military show and lunatics, and lunatics who are, whatever. Psychopaths who think that people have a right to slaughter people because somehow they feel afraid. So that's it. Those are the only people that support this. People that you shouldn't be listening to. So there you go. And that's not my opinion. That's everybody's opinion. That's like everybody on the planet is going, oh my God, this sucks. We don't like this. Would you please stop doing this? Oh, we see that you are evil and we see what you're doing. Doesn't have anything to do with self-defense. So, that's basically how everybody feels about it. So, I don't know. I already read that one. Okay, this is pro-Palestinian protester shuts down reporter. This is a good video. Because, again, just to send up. Trying to get here. Oh, no, that's not it. Well, that's not it. That's not the one. I know this is taking a little bit of time to get here. Here we go.
What about October 12th? What about October 13th? What about October? You keep saying, what about October 7th? What about October 7th? What about October 8th? What about October 9th? What about October 10th? What about October 11th? What about October 12th? What about October 13th? What about October 14th? What about October 15th? What about October 16th? What about October 17th? What about October 18th? What about October 19th? What about October 20th? What about October 21st? What about October 22nd? Let me finish the question. Let me finish answering. What about October 23rd? What about October 24th? What about October 25th? What about October 26th? What about October 27th? What about October 28th? What about October 29th? What about October 30th? What about October 31st? What about November 1st? What about November...
All right. Pretty good response. Well, yeah. I mean, this is it is verging on like Vietnam War level, unmasking the naked fascism of the people in charge, right? I think that's during Vietnam. I'm watching Deer Hunter, by the way, which is a great movie. It takes me sometimes days to watch a movie, but like because it's a long movie, but during Vietnam, like the naked, people could see, oh my God, what, this is ridiculous. What's going on here? We don't want any part of this. We don't want to fund this. We don't want to support this. We don't want this to be, our reality. We see what you're doing. Right. And so, I love the sound of jackhammers in the morning. That's a different movie. There's, just people are awake to what's going on, and they're pissed, as they should be. All right. Before I talk about this, if you enjoy the show and enjoy the show here being every day, there are ways to support. At the end of the show, I will try to read some super chats or super rays or whatever, or if I get some donations during the show, if you want to send me a message, I will read it out. Or you can also support the show this way: buymeacoffee.com/blackburntnews, Cash App at Red Llama Music, Venmo at Kevin Sandbloom, paypal.me/Kevin Sandbloom, and Zelle. You can Zelle me at kevinsandbloom at protonmail.com. All right. Also, there's Patreon, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bears in Far East Russia struggle to hibernate amid abnormally high temperatures. Abnormally high November temperatures in Russia's Far East are preventing local bears from hibernating. I wonder why it's so warm. It must be the volcanoes. Or it must be the sun. It must be all the geoengineering they're doing. I don't know. I'm not sure. With some animals wandering from their winter dens in a half-asleep state, the Amur Region's Wildlife Conservation Authority said Tuesday. While many bears have already accumulated the fat needed for their long seasonal sleep, the improperly high air temperatures hinder them from entering hibernation, specialists noted. Oh, you mean there's like knock-on effects from the temperatures being too high? However, females with cubs do not face such a problem. These furry mothers took their fluffy offspring into their den strictly according to the schedule at the end of October, and no weather anomalies bother them. The struggles of bears in the Amur region, an area encompassing Russia's Khabarovsk, Amur, and Jewish autonomous regions, followed abnormally high average temperatures in October that exceeded the norm by 1.5 to 2°C. The city of Blagoveshchensk experienced its warmest October on record, the Phobos Weather Center said. Meteorologists predict continued record warm weather in the region in November, which has already seen new temperature anomalies. Geez. It's almost like that's happening all over the planet. It's a lot of geoengineering. Or maybe they got the HARP all the way up. Russia, which is warming 2.5 times as fast as the rest of the planet, regularly experiences record temperatures and abnormal weather. Southern areas of western and central Siberia observed unprecedented hurricane-force winds not seen in almost half a century, and temperatures up to 20 C over the weekend, which is quite warm for Russia, by the way, in the November. Climate change impacts on Russia's biodiversity include habitats of species shifting northward with the introduction of more southern flora and fauna in many regions. Brown bears, which predominantly inhabit Russia's boreal forest zone, increasingly intrude on the more northern tundra area, leading to a decrease in numbers of Arctic species, such as the Arctic fox and polar bear, scientists say. Yeah. Poor bears. They got to get some sleep. Bears need sleep. They got to hibernate. They can't hibernate if it's real super hot. But robot bears sleep whenever. No, they never sleep. They just work. Robot bears. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. All right, let's look at this real quick. Because it's a bit of a longer post. From Leon Simons. And this is from a James Hansen paper. In global warming in the pipeline, a recent paper led by the great James Hansen was presented. We presented this theory. This might help answer the question of why the planet didn't warm or even cool down while greenhouse gas concentrations increased. This is one of the greatest unanswered questions in paleoclimate science, coined the Holocene temperature conundrum. Climate models are used to reconstruct the climate of the past 12,000 years, known as the Holocene. These models use knowledge about changes in the orbit of our planet around the sun, the Milankovitch cycles. The changing orbit changed how much sun was shining on the northern and southern hemispheres over time. Even while incoming sunlight over the northern hemisphere decreased during summer, the models show warming during June, July, and August. This is because of increased greenhouse gas concentrations, which are obtained from ice core data included in the models. Ice cores from Antarctica show captured air bubbles over the past thousands of years saw increasing concentrations of both CO2 and methane. They state that paleoecology and archaeology show that early farmers emitted large amounts of CO2 and CH4. Through deforestation and land use changes, including methane-emitting rice production, the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere increased. With the increasing greenhouse gases, the models show increasing temperatures over the past 6,000 years. But this is not what temperature reconstructions for the Northern Hemisphere show. So far, there was no satisfactory answer to what caused this Holocene temperature conundrum. Our theory is that the greenhouse gas warming was masked by smoke from humanity spreading around the planet and setting fire to biomass and turning forests into grasslands. Land use change. Smoke consists out of aerosols which absorb and reflect sunlight and increase cloud cover by acting as cloud condensation nuclei, which also increases sunlight reflection. The dimming effect of so-called aerosol cloud interactions is the largest uncertainty in climate science overall. With no relation to paleoclimate, anthropogenic aerosols have barely been considered. In more recent history, the best estimate of the IPCC is that aerosols masked about 55% of the greenhouse gas forcing over the past 100 years, taking into account an estimated pre-industrial aerosol masking of about 0.5 watts per meter squared, shows that effectively reducing air pollution would cause even more warming than previously thought. Holy shnikes. As with any scientific theory, this will require further judgment, tests, and insights from peers. And we look forward to the perspectives of paleoecologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, geologists, and modelers. All right, so I didn't see this part. He goes on to say that people love burning stuff. We've been using fire for nearly 2 million years. It helps us cook food and adapt the environment to our needs. Okay. Anyways, interesting theory. You know, when they get more resolute on that, I guess I'm sure there'll be more papers about that. Rich Diana said, I picked a bad day to run out of methanol. Yeah. All right. What's up, people of Rockfin? I see you. I see you. Oh, yeah. Osama. Right. Yeah, no, I read that article, actually. The Texas Public Policy Foundation, that after accounting for all the hidden costs involved in owning an EV, the price is equivalent to $17 a gallon. Yeah. Yeah. They are not carbon negative. So there you go. And not cheaper. I mean, I even, I've I've actually, because now I'm being forced to maybe get another car. I don't know yet, but I've been looking at EVs, and like just the cost of just running the EV is actually is on par and could be sometimes more than driving a regular car, which I guess is not the point, right? If you're trying to not emit, but still, it can be expensive to run an EV. And without the subsidies, right? Without the subsidies, it would be really expensive, is what they're trying to say there. So, but there are also subsidies for gasoline too. If we didn't have gasoline subsidies in the U.S., I can't even imagine what the price of gas would be. It would be very, very high. But and the economy would collapse, because gas is what runs, everything. So if gas went up by 50 more percent or even doubled, oh man, it would be a nightmare for the economy. They're trying to keep the gas prices down as much as they can, right? Because they don't want the bottom to fall out. Servicing is expensive on EVs. Gazar, yeah. Yeah, I've heard something like that too. Sure. Sure. Depending on how reliable your particular EV is. And I've heard that Teslas are not very reliable. Okay, last thing. I'm going to get out of here pretty soon, but we'll see if they're going to let me even look at this. I don't know that I need to really cover this, but I already read the headline, and I read, in fact, I don't know if I will cover it. I already talked about this, so we'll leave it there. I think that does it for me, guys. I'm going to, there's going to be no show tomorrow. No show tomorrow. And on Sunday, we're going to have a Rockfin subscriber-only broadcast on Sunday. So if you're a subscriber to Rockfin, you can watch the show. It's going to be a very exclusive show. And then Monday, we'll be back at the regular time of 9 a.m., okay? On all channels. But Sunday, Rockfin-only show at 9 a.m., and tomorrow, no show at all. And so enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Bears, appreciate you. Until next time. Oh, cut myself off. Peace.